All right, dudes. Today we are going to be talking about moral decision making. It is Morality Monday with Alexander, and that's the topic: moral decision making. He's asked the full. He's made the full statement. The claim: the greater good is an insufficient rationale for moral decision making. So this will be starting in just a few minutes. I'm going to spend a little bit of time sharing this stream. Make sure to leave a like on this video if you enjoy it. Oh, I got a warning for something. What happened? Oh, I guess maybe that's done. Oh, maybe not. Oh, I'm running way too many programs right now. All right. Hey, Alexander, how's it going today? It sounds like you're cutting in and out. Can you try again? Oh, there. Oh, yep, you're good. You're good. Nice. Um, yeah, so moral decision making. What are we talking about today? Right. So, okay, let's simplify this a bit. What would they claim to that is the good rationale there? Right. Well, yeah, it depends on what you're using to measure greatness. Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, this is why I rely on the objectivity of science to determine measurements of well-being for me to inform my moral foundation, because then I can apply that as the metric I'm using for any given situation. So the train's just to be clear, the train's heading towards one person. Yeah. 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 And these are people that do I get no other information? Because if I get no other information, I will assume these are people that I have no other categorical information for. So then I can't add anything to it. Like, is one of them my friends, or is one a girl and the other are boys, or you know? Yeah. So yeah. And and so no other information, not what they're outcrying, not what they're saying to me or anything. Okay. Yeah. So I'm in that.
Isolated. You just
Yeah.
you can see that they're there, but no one can help.
Yeah. In that situation, I save the majority. Yeah. That's an easy one for me. Yeah.
And what I guess what I'm curious what prompts you to save the majority? Like what are your foundations?
Well, because when I seek to maximize well-being for myself and those around me, um, when I'm faced with an absolute equilibrium situation like this tells me that I can think of numbers as though I'm managing a people, as though I'm managing, like if I was to make a decision that I have to send in 12,000 troops that are likely all going to be killed and eradicated or captured, to sacrifice them to save this amount, that's what I will do. So with the neutrality of all of this, it does become a numbers game from a well-being perspective.
Darn, I was going to ask Mace what he thought.
He ran away. He got scared.
Oh no. So for
So how do you answer this?
yeah, for me, I would let the train run.
You would let the train run over the five?
The five, because for me, it is a greater crime for me to intentionally violate the life and existence of the one person who would not otherwise be harmed, than to do nothing to help the five who are in danger.
Now, how do you reconcile that with war?
Can you clarify what you mean?
Well, how do you reconcile sending anyone to die for others or sacrificing a small amount for many?
Sure. For me, I think so. I should clarify different wars. Like for people that enlist, that is a choice that they're making. For whatever reason, they've decided to engage in that, and they know what the stakes are.
All right, so let's.
I am against.
Yeah. So let's. So you've taken the easy route out. The hard question is, well, let's use a more. Let's use an example here. If you have a room full of children, and let's say there's 40 children in the building and 5 adults, and a mass shooter comes and runs towards the building. They didn't sign up. Oh, I gotta reconnect to OBS here. Oh, it's probably, I'm trying to do rendering at the same time. But anyways, they didn't sign up to protect the children against armed gunmen. They will have signed in their contract that part of their job is maintaining safety for the children. But not under any legal interpretation of that contract would that include sacrificing their own lives to an armed gunman to try to stop him from killing all the children. But I'm sure you would think that they ought to feel as though they should protect the children at all costs in those situations.
I think that they should make an effort to protect the children, but if it's at risk of sacrificing themselves, I would not consider it a moral imperative. They can do it if they want to, but I would insist morally that they do.
You would insist morally that they do not or do?
I guess I wouldn't insist. I would say that in my moral, if the adult in that situation wanted to prioritize their own well-being, their own safety over the children, I don't consider that. If
Ooh.
Opposite, they want to sacrifice themselves for the children. That's okay too. They decided to do that.
Right.
But I would not require that of them.
Mm. So in a situation where, a child is, being raped on the side of the road and a little woman drives by, um, what do you think she ought to do if she sees this happening?
It depends on her assessment of that she's willing to take. If it is wrong for that to be happening to the child. If this woman
Yeah,
feels that
that's
she's trying for herself in an imperative situation like a substantial interview, and I don't require her to or say that she ought to do something. But if the benefits outweigh the cost, and based on the way you describe that situation, the little I know, I get the impression that we do. And yeah, she should do something.
um, if her cell phone is dead, and she has, a golf club in her car, do you think she ought try to save that child from being raped, even if it means putting her own self at risk? And I'm not asking you if she should have the freedom to choose. I'm asking you, Alexander, what would you do?
Yeah, so, well, to me, that's a very different question. Just because, if we're talking about some old woman, he makes that at her discretion. If we're talking about me, if I'm the person in that,
Well, we're going to answer both. So,
if I'm in that situation and I have the golf club, and I'm going only based on the information to me that I see someone raping it in the side of the road, yeah, I'll get my golf club. But I'm doing that not because I have to save the child. Because in that situation, it's better for the child not.
all right, yeah. Okay, now let's go to the old woman. Hypothetically, the old woman getting out with a golf club might be a way enough to scare off this perpetrator. Should she get out and attempt to scare him off? Ought she do that? Is that the good, correct, morally good thing to do?
And this is given no other information.
No other information. You only get the old woman. She's got a golf club because she likes going golfing once in a while. You just know that she's an old woman. Let's say an old frail woman.
I would say really she ought to get out of the car. But it's hard because I'm also recognizing she's at substantial more risk of doing that than someone who's not old enough.
So you think she ought to get out of the car? Now, if she doesn't get out of the car, was that immoral?
No.
So then you don't believe. I don't think you believe that it's morally correct for her to get out of the car then.
As an observer, I would see it as preferable that she get out of the car. But if she has determined through some knowledge that I don't have, that it's better for her not to, I don't shame her for that.
I'm not asking if you'd shame her. I'm just saying, was the morally correct decision for her to get out of the car and make a ruckus, do something to hopefully distract the rapist from raping the 4-year-old child?
I guess the difference is I think it's contextual. I don't think it's purely a black and white moral or immoral whether she gets out of the car or not.
Well, but you can make a right. but you can make when we're talking about the best moral outcome, would be X. Now, where does that line fall down when you say this person did not do enough? Should they be, feel morally forced to stop, morally forced to honk their horn, morally forced to throw a rock at them if they can find one, or to look for some kind of a weapon, morally forced to get out if they have a gun and hold the gun to them?
Yeah, so it's different options. There's different levels to it.
I'm just going to fix the audio, by the way, so Mace can take over here.
Yeah, I would consider it a moral odd imperative, if you will, that she do. And I wouldn't put imperative on. At minimum, do something. I will grant. So, hi Mace, hi Ape. I don't know if audio is working for you guys, but I hope it is. I can't hear anyone.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey. I think there's a problem.
We're having a lot of audio issues today.
How's it going?
Going well. How are you?
We should be good
Pretty
now.
good.
Okay.
So, what's everybody talking about?
Oh,
Or
we're
what's the
talking.
topic?
We're talking about moral decision making and greater good. It kind of started because I don't think when people say like do something for the greater good, I don't think that's a sufficient rationale. And then I was throwing out a hypothetical to me about, what I would do in a situation or what someone else situation, or like a young child's getting raped on the side of the road, and we were talking about what I would do.
Oh, I see.
So, I don't know, wherever you want to jump in with that. I mean, if you have standard thoughts or if you want to take on the hypothetical yourself or challenge me, feel free. Do whatever you want with it.
I think we're still having some audio issues. Okay.
Might reconnect as well, just as a precaution.
Hello?
Hello, I can hear you.
Hey, good. That's good. Yeah, I'm just listening. I've been having a problem lately. Like I don't know. It's almost like I forget how to talk. But
Okay, I think we're all kind of stumbling through a little bit.
But what were you saying about the topic? You were talking about morality.
Yeah, so kind of what happened, I'll summarize this as quickly as I can. Last week I had posed a question in the Discord, which was the trolley problem, if you're familiar with it.
Sorry, fixed it now. It was on my
From-
end.
Biggie. Anyway, I'd posed the trolley problem. There's 5 people on a track, train's gonna run them over. Do you redirect the train to hit only one person? And some people had responded, oh, of course, for the greater good, I just hit the one person. It's a sufficient rationale. And so as a alternative to that, Pangburn had proposed a couple different situations to me, and the one we kind of landed on most recently was, an old frail woman is driving in her car. She sees a young child being raped on the road. Ought she get out and do, or ought she do anything about it? Which I was saying, ideally, yes, the kid's not being raped, but if she has to put herself in significant danger, I would not require her to do. And I wouldn't. In that case. That's kind of where we left.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It is.
Would you? This is a question for Pangburn, because I'm assuming you think the old woman ought to get out. Is that correct? Okay, I think he's gone AFK. Ignore me.
No, he might just be getting his audio back. Based on the impression he gave me, I think so. I can't speak for him, but that's my understanding.
Yeah. I probably know a lot of old ladies that would probably be willing to kick the bucket at that moment in time, but you would hope for the ability to interfere in a safe way, a way that doesn't cause you injury or cause you to lose your life. But it's just the tough one. I mean, life can get ugly like that.
Sorry, I was off for a second, Mace. What were you asking? What up, Wise?
Do you think that the old
Pangburn.
woman ought to get out at risk to herself to save the child?
Yeah, so I think people ought to have the moral foundation of maximizing well-being for themselves and those around them. So she ought do everything she can to, because this is a child that's being assaulted, right? Everything she can to interrupt this crime.
What about if there's actually a good reason for the crime to take place?
The rape on the child?
Yeah, how do you know the child isn't Hitler, for example?
It doesn't matter. Hitler, it's not a moral act to rape Hitler.
Okay, so do you think that the old woman ought to put herself at risk to save Hitler from being raped?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Just wondered.
Yes, crime is not just eye for an eye. Morality does not enter into the equation for me. If it was legal under the law of the land to rape someone who has done something wrong or done something bad, I would be protesting against that. And if I saw someone being raped, regardless of what they have done, I will be protecting them from that rape.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Would it matter if the law was because of a democratic decision or because of a president or someone
What are you talking
who just
about?
decides this for themselves? if the law says that it's forbidden,
I don't care. But just to start off, I don't care what side of any political spectrum a law is coming from. If a law is antithetical to my moral foundation of maximizing well-being for yourself and those around you, then I will fight against that law.
Oh yeah, I didn't mean what side of the political spectrum you were on. It was just if the country you're in is not a democratic one, does the law still have the same weight?
Right. Yeah. So I would, in a situation like that, like if I was in, let's say, and this is a good question, if I was in Mexico and the law was that public rape was allowed as long as it was justified because the person did something bad enough. If I saw someone being publicly raped, let's say in the square, this would be a moral dilemma that I would still approach from maximizing well-being for myself and those around me. When I look at myself, the well-being for myself, listen, when I look at the well-being for myself, if I was to act against the law in that moment, what is that going to do for my well-being? And then I also have to think about what is going to happen if I don't interject to this person. So there would be a combination of me standing in the square saying, you guys shouldn't be doing this. This isn't moral. I know your laws tell you that you're allowed to do this. You need to stop doing this. Stop doing this. Stop doing this. Whoopi Goldberg naked, like anything I could say to get them to lose their Woody.
All right.
I would just be saying, I would bend over and I would do terribly unsexy things in front of them to get them to stop, as long as I was acting, in a way where I wasn't going to get thrown into prison or anything. I would be doing things in order to interrupt what I see to be an immoral act, even if it was.
So this
within the law.
scenario was
Sorry?
as if. So was this like a public rape instead of public execution? So
Right.
not anything. Okay.
So, and this is a reason why I travel to countries where public execution is acceptable, because I wouldn't be able to stand by morally and watch it happen.
And stay alive.
Well, I would probably be voicing my displeasure and trying to infringe upon it, and I would probably put myself at a lot of risk.
Because this, I feel,
Can I add something? I just wanted to say, like, fear is a real thing. So we're talking about situations where you could lose your life by trying to do something noble or protect the innocent. But I guess in the case of Hitler, I mean, still, I'm getting tripped up on what is right. But if you're going against an evil act, and there's threat against you, I mean, fear, that's why it's always best, like, maybe not to be in that situation and to build like a community with others so you can have help.
Right. It's good to adopt a system that's going to move away from activity like that. But I think, you still have to wrestle with these moral hypotheticals, because they may in fact happen. Actually, I was in Barbados, and I made a joke about a friend who was a guy who was at the beach with me, and these two women that were there, and these two local guys walked by and they said, "Oh, how's it going, man?" I'm not exaggerating. And I was like, "How's it going?" And he's like, "We want to talk to your women, man." And I was like, "No," I was like, "They can talk to you if they want. They're not my women." And I was like, "Matter of fact, that's my guy right over there. Isn't he sexy?" And what I forgot to read was this big billboard when I came off the cruise ship that said that homosexual acts, you can get up to 15 years in prison. And even joking about it can get you arrested and citizen arrested. So
that's thin ice right there.
Right. So then the guys are like, "Man, you can't joke about that, man. We'll bash you in the head." And it was like they got up and ready. But that was one of those situations where my moral foundation clicked in. It's like, I did have there was a part of me that wanted to stand there and have a moral debate with them, but then I also had to think about my well-being and those around me. So it was much wiser. I think the most moral thing I could have done was attempt to de-escalate that as best I could, and I
for
did.
Your own sake.
Right, for my own sake and for those around me, including them. I'm not I'm not discounting
they
them.
don't want you. They don't want your head to get bashed in either. So
no, and they don't want. Yeah, so it was it was this strange thing of like moral law differences and how my maximized well-being for myself and those around me, moral foundation came into interaction with that. So, but I'm taking too much time. I want to hear from all of you guys.
Well, I was watching this movie clip today. It was a couple guys on a raft, and they were surrounded by sharks, and the one guy fell in, and you could like tell that the sharks were gonna grab a hold of this guy. The other guys on the raft were looking like, frightened. But the one guy jumps in. He's like, fuck it, I'll just jump in. He jumps in, grabs the guy. The other guys on the raft like throw a rope. And I mean, that's sort of like what we're talking about. But we're just taking, like, that movie clip is not like about barbaric apes, like, and what they're going to do. It's like, a shark. But
But they made sure to wait to throw in the rope after the second guy jumped in.
well, some guys were throwing in, like, they had some meat and stuff. They were throwing meat in the water, trying to distract the sharks.
Oh,
But it made me think, like, would I jump in the water? Like, or would I have my son jump in the water? Like, if he was more fit than I am? Like, I mean, it's the question you're asking. Like, if I was the grandma, would I go save the child?
I feel the way I would approach this is whether or not it's possible to solve the issue in any other way. Like, you have to do very quick judgments based on, is it possible to save him without killing myself, or is this the only option I have? And then it's a matter of how much you value your own life versus how much you value your friend or whatever.
And I think it just behooves us to be the strongest people we can be, like, whether that means carrying a firearm, or lifting weights or whatever, because whether it be nature or mankind or humankind is part of nature, but whether it be like a fierce storm where you could freeze to death, it's good to be prepared and to be strong for these situations that honestly can take you out. But there is only so, like, in the end, we're fragile. The virus could, a little tiny microbe or virus or bacteria could take down the most prepared, civilization or whatever. But what do you do? Like, ultimately, what are we asking here? Like, what do we do when we're most helpless and unprepared? Like, or alone,
Maybe that's when you most likely would turn to a religion or whatever worshiping you can to hold yourself up. I'm not very familiar with religious thinking, but I'd assume if you really haven't gotten any close friends or family, or really like bad life situation, that's one possible reason I would assume to turn to religion.
Here's the thing. Yeah, maybe. But in a situation where you're sort of like defenseless or not very strong, and you're faced with a storm, or crazy people that intend you harm, there's only two things that are going to happen. I mean, as far as I can tell, you're either going to get hurt, you're going to die, or you'll get lucky somehow. You'll outswim the shark and everything will turn out. But I think in situations like that, like, if you care about, your well-being and the well-being of others, if you're defenseless, I mean, you're either going to die or get lucky. And obviously, if you don't have time to prepare and you find yourself in a situation like that, that's the only two options, really. Either get lucky or get hurt. And hindsight is always best. Like, oh, I wish I was more prepared for this. Like, if I was the grandma, like, I wish I had my burly grandkids with me that could help out or something. But it's just, I wouldn't blame the grandma. Like, if she cowered in fear and Yeah, I mean, it would be nice, but like if she jumped in and interfered, but chances are she's going to get ripped to shreds, you know. But
That's
you know,
kind of
what
the
do
point.
you? Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's fear, you know. I mean, it's justified to be afraid. But that's kind of like our bodies. We have like what adrenaline and stuff. So maybe the grandma would be a good match. But you know, it comes down to luck too, you know, or however the cosmos plays out, because if she gets hit or stabbed, you know, it's over. So
You're kind of making the point that I tried to make earlier, less eloquently, is that I would see it as better for her to step in, but I don't. There's no discrediting if she doesn't, because I think it's imperative for her to protect her own well-being first. And if she seriously hurt or killed in that situation, hey, I don't blame you for stepping back. If she feels pretty good about it and she's got a firearm and 2 burly grandsons with her, go for it. I think it would be better if she did.
yeah, because otherwise it goes back to the trolley situation where you're literally throwing somebody in front of the train in that situation. Like she's throwing herself in front of the train. And I just like know that there would be some hesitation there. But yeah, it comes down to being prepared, because it's just one of those things that if you're not prepared, then you're not promised anything. That's for sure. Like, or life can be pretty grim sometimes.
I'd say the problem with discussing simple moral dilemmas is always, for me at least, so that I just never can think simply about it. I always feel the need to put in the real life, like complications and complexity of a situation. I don't have such a simple moral foundation that I can just simply be satisfied discussing any simple given scenario. Can anyone relate to that?
Yeah, I'll just continue talking a little more.
Oh,
I
sorry.
think, well, but no, that I'm just elaborating on what you just said.
Cut out for anyone else.
Oh yeah, it did cut out. It did cut out.
Ape, I think we're missing you.
Oh yeah, something happened to the call.
We try disconnecting and reconnecting, Ape. I think we can hear each other, but none of us can hear you.
You can't hear Killian.
Oh, I'm not talking.
Oh yeah. It was a green ring.
I can't hear Wise, but I can hear everyone else.
Yeah, no, I've got my thing's not set to mute, but I've got the ability to control my mic.
Oh, me too.
So I hit that instead of muting it.
I wanted to hear what Wise Ape said.
I'm gonna put something in the just general and let him know in case he.
Well, if he heard us, he would have disconnected already. He would have reconnected.
Yeah. Probably.
So he probably thinks we can hear him, and he can't even hear us. So something's up here.
Or the far more likely scenario that he was kidnapped by aliens.
Yeah, it is more likely.
I posted in the live Pangburn to him, so hopefully he'll see it and notice.
Yeah. What can we do meanwhile?
We can talk about how scary it is that aliens abducted our friend.
Yeah, it is. It is very scary. And what reasons would we have not to believe that's exactly what happened?
We don't have any other evidence so far yet, so it's as good as explanation as any, other than the statistical unlikelihood. So
Yeah, we don't have any evidence suggesting that he didn't get kidnapped, so we must assume he was kidnapped. That's how science works, right?
well, no,
Right,
we don't have to
exactly.
assume he was, but if that's a valid opinion and someone wants to stick with that until we get evidence, you can't really say no.
We need to wait for the evidence that says he
Well,
didn't
yeah,
get
exactly. That's what I'm
kidnapped.
saying. You can't be like, well, that's not true until you get evidence. And as soon as you get it, you can be like, you're fucking retarded. Obviously, it wasn't that.
We could say it's probably unlikely given what we
Oh yeah,
know.
no, you
but
could definitely say that. There's nothing
But
wrong with saying that it's probably not true at all.
I would say if the only reason we can't hear him right now is because he got kidnapped by aliens, I would argue that we would have been able to hear that kidnapping because his mic is still activated.
I
good
disagree.
point.
I believe that aliens that are capable of traveling across distant cosmoses have the ability to teleport people to their ships silently.
It's
Sounds
possible. We don't
extremely
know their
reasonable.
tech.
I know he had a point. I kind of want to hear him.
No, this is
He
just
did.
for funsies.
Does anyone have a contrary point that we that we can hear first?
Contrary to what?
Whatever
It
the
has to be
discussion
aliens.
was.
There's no counterpoint. I win. I'm just playing. Is it
Okay,
no?
so basically he said something about the grandma saving her grandchildren, I believe, and when he was finished, I put forward my experience in discussing moral dilemmas because I felt like
Right. He
that's
was
something
going
I
to
need to
he was
discuss.
going to respond to your point about that the difficulty of simplifying.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'll say for myself, this isn't not so much. But, I mean, I get that moral decision making is very difficult, and I think probably for a long time, most of my are I would probably describe my morality as very complicated.
He just left the call, by the way.
Oh, good. And situational. But more recently, I've tried to simplify it just because I think that's a lot easier for getting along. And I encourage other people to do the same because I think it's an easier method and it's consistent. But I understand that that's challenging because you're right. Life isn't simple. Stuff's going to constantly happen that you can't for. So we try to take these hypotheticals as we are and not throw too off into them. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that doesn't make it any.
Oh, hey, I don't know if you guys can hear me now, but I was
Yeah,
talking
no.
for like five minutes. And
Yeah,
I thought
I
everybody was.
We assumed that's what happened, and we also made up a plan. We made up the idea that you got kidnapped by aliens as well.
Oh,
and
well,
sent
here
you
I
a
thought
message on the Discord to be like, "Hey, we can't hear you." But
yeah, I was really having a good thought experiment there, and I thought, wow,
Oh
I'm
no!
solving stuff, but
Oh
no,
well,
no!
we
it's fine.
Do you
love to hear it
remember
if it's not too much hassle to redo it.
Well, where did I end off at?
Well,
Uh,
you didn't. You did. You said you wanted to try to answer my statement, and that's where you cut off.
That's
We
it.
didn't hear. We didn't hear
oh
anything.
no. Well, I let me think back.
Okay,
Oh,
so the
I
simplicity
was.
of a moral situation.
What's that?
Yeah, it was about the. In case you forgot, the simplicity of a moral situation and the difficulties and complexities that it
Uh-huh.
brings with it.
And I thought you said something about like maybe like how do we determine or our morals, or not?
I'm pretty sure I didn't, but it's
Okay.
still a good question. I literally just said what I find difficult in discussing morals because I have never like seen
a moral system to be easy. I've never actually thought about morals very much. It's a very recent discovery for me to even find it important at all. So
Okay.
my life never was like based on morals. And some things were like based on just I don't care about these things, and some things were inherently there without me even thinking about them probably. So I have never seriously discussed morals, and that's why I brought up this difficulty I have with simplifying any moral situation.
Okay. Well,
Are you saying just for clarification? Is it a? Are you saying that just like if a situation or a simple moral scene is like a you'd be given that to answer as a question, and like you'd have more questions about the scene than just whatever the initial question was to clarify and try and figure out what's going on.
I would always do that. I
Yeah.
couldn't.
See. Okay.
I wouldn't even know how to start without a question. I always start with a question because it's nothing that seems obvious to me. It's very difficult.
Understandable. Okay. Interesting. I just wanted to know that for clarification's sake. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. I'm very curious to hear Wise Ape's point now.
okay. Well, I would say well-being for yourself, and then that extends to other people, because if you're operating for like considering someone else's well-being, it it fosters an environment to where you can flourish more. And I said something about having maybe barbaric thoughts, like and not identifying with them. Like if somebody thinks, they have the desire to murder or to rape, and for whatever reason they think, oh, this will be pleasurable. It would not be to have that done to you. So
Yeah, and most likely, most times I find that people who ever uses that, like they have to express their instinct, their feeling they have towards someone, or a specific type of person or whatever, and they never really they don't try to solve a problem other than their impulse to do it. It's not like I hate the way someone acts in traffic, and if I had the chance, I'd just shoot him. Like, you can't do that. It's literally just what you feel like you would do, and it's not like you're not trying
Yeah.
to solve an issue.
Exactly. I gotta go though. But nice talking with you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nice talking with
Sorry
you as well.
about that.
Thanks for being
yeah.
here, Rick.
Yep,
Goodbye.
I'll be back sometime. Bye.
Is it I find myself oftentimes when I'm angry about a situation, especially one that's generally outside of my control, if it's like work or something like that.
So
I'll explain like how angry I am and what I'm going to do for retribution, and like how I think I was wronged and how I'm going to right that wrong, and like how it's going to be like like very it's going to be like awesome, or I'm going to do it in a really interesting way or something like that. When in reality, how I deal with it is I'm like really nice, and I fix the problem with as much sincerity as I can, because that's how I actually am. But because of my
I've been
anger in
re-
the moment, when I get pissed off, I like imagine all these terrible scenarios where I'm just rude and cussing the person out and telling them that they're a piece of shit. And like, but it's not really, that's not how I actually feel. I'm just upset. And when I calm down and think about it rationally and I get to the situation, almost always I'm I'm being genuine and sincere again, because I realize that my anger isn't like just because I have gotten anger from a situation doesn't mean it's necessary to transfer it to somebody else.
I've been reading a book recently that talks about how different
sure.
people acts
how different types of people act in especially workplace related situations, as you mentioned. And from what I hear, it sounds like you would be the typical, basically green personality type. I don't have time to explain it, but basically it's the most people don't actually open their mouth when they think a lot of stuff around other people. They go with whatever everyone else wants to do, but they can build up a lot of anger and frustration over a long period of time. And
It's a
maybe
little more contextual than that, but yeah.
oh yeah, I totally understand that. I just had to reflect on uh, recently gained knowledge
No
I'm
worries.
curious.
Yeah, no, that's that's pretty close to what my personality would type would be in that case, but it's very contextual. Most of the time,
Yeah.
because I wish to keep my job, I usually act pretty compliant with most things because I don't desire to lose my job.
Well, the
But
interesting thing
there are
is,
certain things with like reactionary things that, depending on what I think about them when I see them, I'll go beyond caring about my job for that moment to handle that situation.
yeah, and in the long run, that's actually the most rational way to deal with it. It's like whether or not you know why you do something, or if you think, oh yeah, I wanted to do this, but I ended up not doing it because I wanted to keep my work. Like, it's even if it doesn't feel entirely right, it's still you have to consider what did you decide not um, to sacrifice. Like, it was more rational for you to do whatever was going to keep your job. So
Sorry, excuse me. Was it yeah, and when was it I want to circle it back to morality a little bit so I can try
oh
to
yeah,
get back to this a little bit. But the reason the way I'm going to bring this back is every time that happens, I try to be as nice about it as I possibly can to fix a situation within my power, because I think it's better that if somebody has a negative experience somewhere, that the person that's helping them out with their negative experience actually gives them a second to vent, because a lot of the problems within that are giving people time and respect. And if
that's
you give
that's a
somebody time and
mature.
respect, if you give somebody time and respect to speak and like tell you what your problem is, even if it's something that you can't solve, just for that second, and they get it all out, and you look at them and they kind of breathe for a second, you're like, yeah, so, I can tell you what I can do again and all this, and they're going to be like, oh yeah, I know this is what you can do. I don't, I'm just upset, and this is what I'm going through right now and such. And it's like, yeah, I understand, but this is my limited ability of what we can do for you. So what can
Yeah,
we do for this? And then,
and if you
it
have,
works out. So I think giving people time uh, to vent is a part of the process of determining someone's actual morality versus just what people feel like in the moment. Because if you give somebody a second event, they'll end up just explaining how they actually feel.
yeah, instead of just responding to the initial reaction as if like you're a
Hmm.
complete dumbass for wanting to why would you want to
Do
kill
X.
everyone on the workplace? Yeah, whatever. Yeah. So and it's a very mature like insight you have there. If you actually let people say what they want, they will both feel like they got to vent what they had to say, and they also felt like they felt like they could trust you, and maybe you can more easily come to a fair conclusion, a fair compromise or whatever. If you listen to each other, maybe it's someone who is that stupid that it's very obvious that you won't gain anything from listening to them to let them finish their point. But I feel like you have a good point there. Most often, it's better to let them finish, I think.
Alexander, what do you think?
I mean, especially in more intense situation, the emotion can override rational thought, and most people I'd like to think, okay, are capable of knowing what is better for them and what isn't in the long run. But if you give them the chance to get the emotion, access that read, what should I actually be doing? But if you keep them locked in the emotion, if you agitate or upset or something intentionally, you're not helping that situation.
Wait, how would you? What exactly do you mean when you mean keep them in the emotional state? Do you mean like
I can actually
make
give
it
an
worse,
example
or
about
just
this.
not helping, or making it worse on purpose? Alex.
Well, yeah, and I would say, yeah. So there's a difference. I mean, not helping is not always great. Not making, I mean, making it worse is bad. But to me, I mean, the intentionality is a really big thing. Like if someone's clearly worked up about, you're having an argument with someone, they're clearly worked up, and you notice that they're worked up, so you're aware of what's going on.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Continuing
yeah.
to yell, continuing to yell at them is not going to help. Taking a breath, kind of pulling yourself out of that is going to be more beneficial. Now, if you're both totally worked up and you're not aware that they're having a breakdown, well, I guess there's nothing you can do because you're not aware of it.
Was it
Yeah, and that.
Can I actually like to give an
Yeah,
example if I can? I work
please
at
do.
I work at a gas station. I usually work the overnight shifts. So
Oh,
I'm always seeing people come in like, drunk or high or whatever the fuck. And the other night there's this guy and he was piss drunk.
oh,
He comes into the store and he's being loud or whatever, but it happens a lot of the times, and as long as he's not falling over or knocking into shit, I usually don't care. Like if you can hold yourself up and speak, I'm gonna sell you beer. But if you're falling over and just slumping and you can't talk to me, you can go down to my store. So he was capable of standing and speaking. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Uh, and then this guy walked into the building, this other guy, and he was about 5 feet away from him. Actually, scratch that. Before that, my apologies. He had walked up to where my customer was in front of the register, and he had reached his arm across him after he had grabbed his beer and set his beer in front of him at the cash register. So I kind of scooted his stuff aside and said, "I'll be with you in a second, sir." As I just kind of pushed it to the side. And I dealt with the customer and I let him know that I wasn't breaking my attention for that, and we're still having a conversation and finishing our transaction. Was
side
it
point. I just realized you can sell regular beer in gas stations in America.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No. Yes, it can. Yes, it can. Was
That's
it
contextually important here.
No. It
Yeah,
is. It is
I
actually.
felt
I
It
very
is.
much
It
can.
really is.
I
Yeah. No.
felt
I
like it
very much
was.
can. Is it? No. It is.
We
It
have
very
to
much
go.
is.
We have to go to our state monopoly like store where the only place you can buy actual alcohol here in Sweden.
Oh
Ah.
wow.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. You can search it up, but a side point, I didn't want to switch the topic. I
No
just wanted.
worries.
That's
No,
okay.
it's okay. The story
I'm
is still
glad you
pretty
pointed
fresh
it
in my
out.
mind.
I didn't know either.
Yeah,
Is it
it's very interesting.
Hey, you guys. Can I
Hello.
give one rundown Nick Land's philosophy?
Aristotle.
Wait, Aristotle,
Well,
wait, Killian's gonna finish his point first. Go ahead, Killian.
hello. So is it oh, wow, the wind got loud. So continuing on, was it the guy after he'd done that and I'd set his beer to the side, he stood behind the guy in line, obviously seeing that I'm not gonna just let him walk over the person in front of him. And the person comes in and they go look at like milk or something, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what they were looking at. And he goes, "Hey buddy." He just turns around and immediately starts into him. He goes, "Hey buddy, what are you looking at? You acting all sketchy. You tweaking out, bud? You okay there?" And the guy just didn't know how to respond because he just got like aggressed upon all of a sudden verbally. He's just like, no man, I'm okay. Are you okay? You tweaking out or something? You kind of freaking me out." And the guy's like, "Yeah, well, why don't you shut your mouth before I beat the fuck out of you?" And I was like, whoa, hey man, you can't fucking say that in my store. Hey, like, I didn't get loud. I didn't start yelling, but I like raised my voice enough for him to hear me from where he was. And he wasn't paying attention to me still because he was still heated. And they had a barb for a second like that, and I got louder, and I was like, hey, you know, let's get back in line here. Stop talking to him. If you're not going to pay attention, you can get out of the store. So he got back in line. The other guy left. He comes up with his beer, and I was just like, you know what, man? I can't sell you this. You're too drunk. And I took it from him, and I set it aside, and I was like, I can't sell you this, man. You're too messed up. And he goes, yeah, who says so? And I was like, I said so. Unfortunately, you're too messed up. And he looked at me all pissed off. And unfortunately, this guy, I'm 6 foot and I'm about 210 pounds. This guy was about 6'4", 260. It was unfortunate. It was unfortunate. He was a big boy. And I was like, you know, I really don't want to end up having this go the route that it might go down. So I was looking at him and I'm like, hey, man, look, I can't sell this to you. I'm not going to sell this to you. You know, he's just like, well, why not? And I'm like, you're too fucked up. I told you that already. He didn't even remember that I asked. I told him that that's what was going on. And then he kind of started creeping over the counter at me while leaning in. And I was like, you know, I can call the cops. Like, however you want to play it out. And the second I said the word cops, he dipped out of the store. And I thought about it and I was just like, you know, I don't know this like customer dude that was in the store, but I think it's so fucked up that this guy acted that way towards him, even though he's drunk, that if that guy had come at me because of my policy, I would have had to wait for him to attack me. I probably would have fought him on his behalf because that's fucked up. You can't just fucking go and start attacking people because you're not in the right mind state. That's something you should have controlled. Well, it's because it's something you should have controlled in the first place.
That's just drawing an odd from an is, though. Like
no. Well, of course, it's an odd from an is, but is increasing the well-being of others. If you're in a fucked up mind state, driving a car around, going to hold on. If you're in a well-being statement is what it is. If you are driving a car while you are drunk, which is known to impair your driving skills and cause the ability to kill people quite often, going to a store, inciting incidents with other people, causing them to be wary and afraid of you. This is not an is statement. This is a well-being statement that he is causing a problem with. And this is why he's not going to be allowed to get beer from my store continuously, which is why I'm going to stop him there and tell him he needs to leave. If he had stayed there and caused a little bit more of a problem, I would have called the police. I didn't realize that he had driven there. If I had realized that he had driven there, I would have called the police anyway, so he couldn't have drove because he almost crashed into one of the pumps going out of my yard.
it's an odd. Okay, so what is the odd? What's the odd?
There's no. There is no odd. It's an is statement. He was fucked up. He was going to hurt people. If he continued and he got a little more aggressive, he would have hurt people. He was in the mood screaming and fighting. There's no ought part of it. He was going to hurt people.
Okay. Like, did you literally know that? Because that's actually violating the problem of induction by David Hume.
No, if I hadn't told him to get out of the store and interfered with him personally because he saw me as an authority figure because I was behind the counter of a store, he most definitely would have started attacking someone. That person was getting terrified, and I could see because they were leaning back as he was approaching them.
Well,
that's still like, I mean, that's still like violating the problem of induction, though, because you don't technically know what would go, like what was going to happen.
Okay, so what if I gave you the probability that was okay? I was gonna say if I give you fine. If I changed the entire scenario, and the only thing that I changed different was that it was highly likely, would you be okay with that?
I mean, not necessarily because of the black swan fallacy. So.
Well, okay, so why don't you go ahead and explain to me what the black swan fallacy is?
Well, the black swan fallacy is that, I mean, you can say that, like, from what we've observed until now, for example, right, is that, yeah, we have only seen white swans, right? But that does not rule out, like, swans being other colors as well. And by the way, they found out there was.
We have evidence of that possibility via mutation, so yeah, of course it can happen. There's no mysticism in that or anything, though. So what's... But there's no like exponential difference. It's a very big possibility. So it's not like mutations happen. There's a mutation that can likely happen to change something's color.
It isn't collapsed down to like biological mutation. Like this is a general statement of induction, though.
I guess I'm curious because I'm getting a little lost in the shuffle of this. Like, for you, Aristotle, like what is your objection to Cillian kicking the guy out of the store due to the likelihood that something could happen?
Well, my objection is the problem of induction, is that he technically do not know. It's only based on past experience, a priori knowledge. Tells nothing about the future. And
We're touching upon
and
an
making
issue
that
occurs.
Hold on a
and-
second. Hold on a second. Hold on a
and
second. Based
making-
on that logic, if you saw a lion eat somebody in front of you 5 times, like 5 separate times, where somebody went into a cage, and saw a lion eat someone, you would still go into that cage because based on your prior knowledge, you know that there's a chance that the lion's not going to eat you. Because just because it happened in the
Again,
past.
That's the problem.
No.
Induction.
Just because it happened in the past means that it's not going to happen to you. So go ahead and step into the cage. That's my
Well, I mean,
confusion
it could
with
happen,
your statement.
but it also couldn't, again, because of the problem. Of
Would you
induction.
step
can
into the
read
cage?
about it. It's called.
Would you step into the lion cage?
Well, I mean, this like
That's not what I asked you. I asked you a question.
Like it doesn't prove anything. Like,
Can you answer the question though?
Like, I mean, it's meaningless to come up. Like, I mean, it's like, okay, what kind of?
Okay. So
like, it's a
when I
bad
ask a question
objection to
based
the problem
on,
induction, because
Guys,
the only
I
thing I have to
disagree.
say is that
I disagree. It's a bad objection.
I'm
Fooey.
going to try to. There's a discussion. I'm going to try to clarify this. Aristotle, I don't think Killian's saying that it proves anything. He's just, I think what he's trying to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Killian, that from a practical standpoint, if you have nothing to go off of except your prior knowledge, because you don't know what the lion's going to do, odds are, based on what you've seen, it may not go well. So you might not want to take that risk.
That's the point. That's the exact point I'm making.
Rule out other possibilities. That's a problem of induction.
Okay, that's fine, and I'm giving you
it's
that's the problem of induction. Now, based on that, I'm asking you a question. Would you, in that case, based off of your interest with the problem of the law of induction, walk into the lion's cage to see if something different would happen?
Sure, why not?
Okay, cool. I'm just checking. I just want to make sure.
You're more of a risk taker than I would be.
Isn't the definition of insanity expecting different results from the same thing?
I was thinking about that because
I mean, it's not the real one. It's a good version of a definition of it, but it's
This is one of the difficulties in talking about morals. I noticed you're talking about a moral situation where you did something in order to make absolutely sure that nothing bad happens in this gas station. You did something that will absolutely make sure nothing bad out of your control, like more out of your control than the control.
Anything within my control, I did to make sure that everything within my control, I did to make sure nothing happened.
He would only know that a posteriori. He would only know that a posteriori. Like he makes an assumption based on a priori moral values.
Thank you, grandfather.
Granted, the drunk guy listens.
Pardon me?
Granted, the drunk guy listens to his instruction. Like, if he leaves the gas station, Killian can absolutely know for sure he's not going to cause trouble inside of his store if he leaves.
And what if he comes back?
What if
that's a completely different issue?
I mean, no, it's not, because you're saying, like, okay, if he leaves, you said it would 100% make sure that he won't cause trouble. Like, the only thing he has to do is just go back in.
Yeah, but I didn't say if he leaves and comes back.
Okay, yeah, but if we're talking about like hypotheticals, right? Like, I can just like add one more, right? Like, yeah, if he just comes back in.
Yeah, sure, of course it can happen. But it's difficult to talk about this situation. What I would argue Killian did a completely reasonable thing. It's not necessarily well, talking about fallacies in a situation like this is I can't compare.
Well, if we're talking about something reasonable, like, we have to point out the fallacies to make sure that it is reasonable, right? That a fallacy isn't committed.
Of course, you can discuss the fallacies. I think that's interesting, but I just think what reason does he have to believe that the drunk guy wouldn't cause more trouble?
There's at a certain level, everything is based on prior knowledge. No one has future knowledge as far as we're aware.
Not
I mean,
necessarily.
I
Though.
don't.
I have to object to that.
But you have future knowledge?
There's something called retrocausality. You can look it up. That's actually the future is causing the past.
That makes sense.
Future is causing the past.
But guys, there are many theories. All right, that's the thing I'm going to say.
Sure.
There are many
if we're-
theories about many things.
I mean, there's also the
Wow.
theory of the six-toed pink panther that flies above my head.
Yeah, we can discuss if that exists or not if you want. I don't care.
Oh no, it probably doesn't, but you know.
I mean,
I
it
would
technically
say I
does in
don't-
the sense of because of the law of identity. So you identify.
No. Actually, there's a. I don't even have to do
An
this. I actually
identity
watched
and
this earlier.
ontology.
Matt Dillahunty has a
Right.
really good explanation for what you just talked about without me having to go into it. I can just reference you that video. I don't have to actually say anything. I'll just reference you the Matt Dillahunty video about where he talks about that kind of thing, and it'll be okay.
Wait, is he talking about like how identity
How
and
just because
ontology
something
are
exists inside of your head doesn't mean it becomes a real thing. The contextual version of something does not become an actual physical thing in the universe.
Wait.
Yeah.
So he's saying okay, if you identify something in your head, like the topology of it's
A
mutually.
flying pink elephant above your head.
Wait.
It's not real anywhere at all in the universe except as an idea or a concept in your head.
Okay, so. Okay. So, like, first of all, like, we have to
I love
discuss,
you,
like,
Pangburn.
where is the universe then? Like, I mean, where, like, the topology of
Where
it. So
is
when you
it? It's
identify
kind of like
something,
everywhere
where is
except
it?
where we're standing currently, and even then it's kind of there because we're made up of it. So
That's the thing by
so
saying,
let's-
like, yeah. Okay,
guys, let's pull back for a little.
I'm
for a little
trying,
bit.
but every time I try to talk about something, this guy's like, "Well, let me introduce a fallacy, and we'll talk about that for 5 minutes."
Yeah, I have to do that because it's very important in a rational discussion.
No, well, let's pull back for a second. Let's try to steer back to morality. I only got like 20 more minutes anyway, so I want them to be.
Sorry, go ahead.
But I would argue we have to base morality or whatever it is on what we can verify. And theories are interesting. Hypotheticals are interesting, and they're very useful. I'm not denying that. But at a certain point, you do have to go based on what you know. And what I know and what I can verify is that which has already happened, to me and or is documented. And so,
Okay.
so I
Here's
make
a-
a
Yeah, because there's nothing else
basis
Yeah,
you
a
can
for
go
paradox
on.
that.
is rising here. Okay, paradox is rising here. So, how would you verify the epistemology of morality? How does that work?
I can't at this time. I don't know of a way to say that there is epistemological, objective, total standard for morality. People have aimed at that, and I hope that one day they succeed. I don't know of any method that's perfectly, but I base my moral standards on what I know, what has been discovered, what can be found, the thoughts that people have had, and I'll continually change it over my lifetime to suit new knowledge that I acquire. I can't make a statement that it's objectively perfect or anything like that. I don't think anyone should. I don't think we have the means to.
Okay, so
But-
moral contingency then. When I said, I mean moral contingent to circumstances changing, right? So an adaptive moral framework, right? Contingent to circumstances. Is that what you're saying, or not?
Not so
Correct me if I'm
much.
wrong.
I mean, it's not contingent to circumstance. It's
Okay.
the morality is based on the sum of the knowledge that I have. And so if I acquire new knowledge, I will adapt it. But I try to keep it as consistent as possible and not change between circumstances unless I gain some new knowledge that tells me, hey, my morals were wrong. I need to correct. But you're probably right in what you're saying. I'm just cautioning it because circumstances can be rough, because I don't want it to sound like for every given circumstance in my life there's a different rule, because there isn't, and I try to make that.
I totally understand that, because if you didn't go by what you already know, like if you didn't act based upon what you already have, like in your knowledge base, what else would you act upon? Would you
Right,
just
I might have a different moral foundation 2 years from now. I don't know what that is yet. I can't work with it.
I don't know my own. I just it was
Can't
basically
base it on
applied to
something I'll
Aristotle.
learn 2 years from now.
Yeah.
Fair.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I mean, like morality is like a lifelong philosophical subject that we can just go on and on about, like what is right in this given circumstance, right? Like,
Yeah,
what do you guys think about the
of course.
golden rule? The golden rule.
What, do unto others, do on yourself?
Yeah.
I disagree because somebody could be masochist. It's probably not a good idea for them to go do what they so do to themselves onto others.
It's a rule that I think everything is pragmatic, especially when it comes to morality. But it's a rule that has surely
I
stood
agree.
the test of time from Confucius.
And
I think
a
it's
rule-
one of the most important things when you actually develop your moral structures for yourself, that you consider that rule in how you treat others. It's not always going to work, like you said in Killian's situation, where it's like, "Oh, I enjoy cutting myself," so. You know,
You probably, yeah, you probably shouldn't. You probably shouldn't.
shouldn't.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't treat other people the way you treat yourself in that case. Yeah,
well, but
unless
if
you're a
you
sadist
are-
and they also agree.
Yeah, so it's
I think-
continuous to circumstances then.
Exactly.
Yeah,
There's just a
I
lot
think-
of circumstances.
I think one thing I learned when I was like in sales was really interesting. It was a guy that taught sales, and he came up when he studied psychology as well when it comes to confidence in yourself and like who you are when it comes to meeting strangers. And he said there's this weird triangle, and I've spoken about this before, but it's like he has this triangle in his mind, and at the top of the triangle, this thing deals with the ego, and at the top of the triangle it says who you think you are. At the right side of the triangle it says who you really are, and at the left side of the triangle it says who others think you are.
Oh,
Some
it's
people
a version.
who have
It's a version of the Johari window.
Oh, okay, so yeah, you're a psychiatrist, so you know it. So people that have these weird looking triangles, right? Their egos are inflated or anything, or they're not listening to people when they're saying, "Actually, I think you're more like this kind of person," and they're not really putting credence to that. And the goal is to get that triangle as small as possible, so you can be honest with who you are as a person, and it lines up with what other people are saying about you too. And in that case, I would say yes, you should absolutely treat others the way you want to be treated, because it looks like you're doing a really good job as far as treating other people well. And when you get that defector that comes along that says, "Oh, you're this type of person," you can be confident in yourself and go, "No, I'm not. You're a fucking idiot," because I have all this data that shows no.
Yeah, but isn't that ethics and not morals? You know, I mean, like if you have a rule system, that's ethics, not morals.
Yeah, moral is like this like specific rule, and like ethics is like this structure, right? Of like.
Well, ethics is the situational thing. Like, so you could have like a moral foundation, but ethics will be like the different situations you can find yourself in, and how you apply your moral standards.
Okay, I thought ethics were like moral rules compiled together in like a satisfying systems, but I can look up the definitions. Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't morals
Big
morals
Lebowski. What's up, man?
What's up, Killian? How you
Concerned
doing,
with
brother,
the
man?
principles of right and wrong behavior. Okay. Ethics.
Yeah, and then ethics is a
Moral
subjective
principles that govern a
understanding.
person's behavior or the conducting of an activity.
That's really cool.
Morals
The
are
branch of
internal.
knowledge that
Ethics
deals
are
with
more.
moral principle. Okay, actually, guys, ethics, the branch of knowledge that deals with moral principles. So I guess ethics are the epistemology of moral principles. Then. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But morals, there's supposed to be something deeper there that's, you know, not necessarily codified into words, right? Like, I think we've all sort of, or that we just sort of agreed on here is like, I don't know, like morals will change based on like different things that I learned throughout time. We might learn something new about this specific thing, so all of a sudden you could have a different change in your base idea. But then ethics would be how you encode that into a system.
Legit, son, legit.
And some people make a distinction between.
Between what?
Did we lose you for a second, Alexander?
Yeah,
Wait, is Alexander a psychiatrist? Unironically, somebody said he was.
I wanted to ask that. Actually, I thought I heard that as well.
Someone might have the morals that they don't want to eat meat because they don't. I mean, they don't want to eat meat because they don't think it's right, and we can debate that ethically. But our society, or at least I'm talking about the U.S. because that's where I am, society hasn't embraced that. But we have ethically
Yeah.
embraced don't kill other people. So,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
some things get into the ethic and some things don't.
Yeah, like if we're talking about veganism, right? Like it's really going to we have to delve deeper into the ontology of suffering and pleasure, right? And then is killing wrong or right, continue to circumstances again, and so on, and then we compile a moral framework out of that, right?
It's always a weird one for me whenever it says that. It's like I think when it comes to veganism and the morality, it's like that's so tiny compared to if I were to be vegan. If I were to be vegan, I'd talk with my physician first to see if it was healthy enough for me to go to a plant-based diet or not, and then that would basically solidify whether I'm going to be vegan or not. If I approached it from a moral standpoint, the world doesn't give a shit about my morality. My health could be declining because I'm eating too many fucking plants and not enough meat, right? It's it's kind of interesting when people kind of bring up veganism and morality, because it's I guess in a nutshell, I'm saying is we live in a big circle of life, and you either got to be part of that show, and if you're not, then you're dead.
And also the thing is
veganism is even though your people are just eating plants, are still killing animals to get those plants. That's all I wanted to say. Go ahead.
I'm actually a plant torturer. I'll peel petals off of a flower. I'll torture.
Yeah, but the thing is though, we have to discuss is a plant living as well, right? It's teleological by nature, right? A plant.
No, I mean voles and stuff like that live in the fields that plants are growing
field
in.
Mice.
And when they go and process those crops, all sorts of life forms, all sorts of mammals die in that process.
Yeah, I mean, I just came from an argument where someone was like, "Well, ethically, I mean, we should just kill all omnivores on the planet," and then there you go. They're now the plants have nothing to fear. You're good to go at that point, right? Now you've solved the problem.
I think it's so
just kill all life on the planet.
We really have to look at if there's really a distinction between an omnivore, right, and a plant, right? I mean, if they're fundamentally just again what a living organism does, right? I mean, they take things in, they distillate, I think that's how we call it, right? What they want and what they don't, right? And then they reproduce, right? I mean, though that mechanism you can both fundamentally find that with plants and meat eaters, right?
But it's also equally.
What about Venus flytraps? Plants that eat.
So right now the consensus the consensus from the research that I've done is scientists don't know if plants are conscious or not. They act in a way that is, but consciousness seems to be a product of brains, not of plants. But they do act with intent based on their environment, just like we act with intent based on our environment. And they do also have a way of having a nervous system, and they communicate. So there's a way of are they conscious? Are they not? It's a hard problem, just like the hard problem of consciousness, to see if a plant really has that capability.
Discussion about consciousness, because that's
right, and so we don't need to go down that road. What I'm just trying to say is that if you actually look at I had a purpose and a point to what I was going to say earlier, but yeah, fuck it.
Wait, guys, what is this server even about? Somebody just invited, gave me an invite link to this place. So what is this about? Pangburn.
Well, this is we have serious discussions that are on podcasts. So Pangburn has YouTube discussions. This actually I think is on a YouTube right now. So right now
the guy that hosts debates or something with celebrity celebrity intellectuals or whatever.
Yeah, sometimes we have intellectuals on here. We've had Krauss and Kaku and a few other scientists and
Jesse Lee.
Jesse Lee Peterson. Well, he said intellectuals, but but it's a good place to discuss. Alexander is actual psychiatrist. That's his profession, so he brings
counselor,
up topics.
but yes,
counselor.
Counselor. Alexander, can you do Alexander, do a psychiatric profiling of me. What do you think about me?
from what
you've heard.
I am
just
not
from what you heard. Just
I get that. I legally can't.
You need to pay him for that shit and sign a contract.
No, just what type of person do you think I am as a psychiatrist?
That's actually hilarious. Currently,
even if I'm totally honest, Aristotle. Even if I could legally give you an assessment right now, I know so little. I can't.
You seem like a human being.
Know nothing about you other than you're hopefully human, but it's on the computer, so how do I know?
Right.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe
Technically,
I'm an
Something
AI.
like that. Well,
well, no. Technically, everything you said could just be like a troll, and you're not actually doing this.
well, I
Like,
mean, like,
yeah,
so
I'm not
who
saying
knows?
that's what it is, but
I
that's
don't know. Everybody in here is not
that's-
trolling me though.
exactly. No, you don't. That's the crazy thing in the world.
Yeah.
But the thing is that as far as he knows, you could just be coming in here doing whatever, and there's no way to actually assess that. So it's not really fair of him to try and make an assessment based
so
on your
let's-
personality. He's been after 10 minutes.
Okay, so yeah.
So let's get back on topic if we can. Alexander, how do we
Yes,
move this
please.
forward?
I don't know because we derailed in so many places. I can't tell you where we go next.
We're really good at this.
I think
Derailing.
the initial topic was what morality, right? And then I brought up ethics, and it sort of went down a road from there.
It's
But I
been
do
kind of
think-
twisting.
So
Not gonna
what
lie.
about
I do
morality
think those things
specifically?
are tied. You know, I mean, I think if
Sure.
we talk about morality, you should probably also talk about
Values, ethics.
Yeah.
Well, what about morality specifically though? Like, what are we trying to figure out?
Well, I'll tell you guys how it started, and it can go a different direction if need be. But I kind of started today with the assertion that being for the greater good is not a sufficient rationale for making a moral decision.
I agree
Why
wholeheartedly.
not?
Well,
Wait, not-
for
okay.
for the greater good is too vague as it is. So yeah.
Yeah, it is.
And also
Exactly.
depends what the greater good is, right? Like,
Well, when you say something is the greater good, you're generally like, you can get a subject like, it's the Iron Clan. Oh well, why does the Iron Clan do what it does? For the greater good.
Well,
Like-
I got to say, Alex,
It's a trolley experiment, right?
Well, so the greater good, there's problems there. How about if it's a rule of causing as little amount of suffering as you possibly can?
It's
Or the
the
lesser good.
it's the trolley experiment. There's a trolley coming down the train tracks, and there's a fat man
This
in
is where we
front of you.
started.
The fat man in
Oh,
front of you. You push the
utilitarianism,
fat man.
incidental
It stops the
ones.
trolley, and it saves lives, right? So why wouldn't you push the fat man to stop the trolley, right? That's a psychopath test, which is a little bit weird. Or there's another version where you can move a lever that diverts the train to a track that will kill one person rather than a track that kills more than one person.
Oh no,
right?
no. Well, it's not one person. It's a track that kills a toddler versus a track that kills 3 elderly people or something like
Right.
that. There's
Wait,
hold
there's-
on,
hold on,
that's
hold
You can
on,
make
hold
this
on,
up all day
hold
long.
on, hold on. How
Bees
elderly?
nest. Bees
There's
nest.
a lot of variations on the trolley problem, and we can
Yeah, I
go
know,
through.
right?
The baby and
Wait,
elderly one is
You
different
want
to
to
me.
know? You want to know my
You can go
answer on
through-
every single one of them? I don't touch
Oh.
shit. I don't touch anything. I let fucking fate decide because then I would be responsible for murder, and I don't want to
That's
justify
I
that.
haven't heard that
Well, you're
before.
still- well,
Actually,
you're-
that
well, you're-
just
We're in
don't make a
agreement.
choice.
In
to begin with.
action is, I mean,
Interesting.
Yeah, inaction is an action in
Inaction.
itself, so you would still be responsible.
I mean, you're
like
asking me
you
to
did,
kill
you're not
somebody.
like, hey,
Whoa,
I could have
doesn't
killed
action require-
whichever way it goes, somebody died, right?
I catch
So
a
it
baby
should
Doesn't
be-
falling
action
from a
so
require-
you
roof.
need
wait,
to
does
be-
responsibility require action though?
I would catch a baby or save a
Captain
life.
Jack.
Like, of course I do those things. I'm just saying, don't ask me to
I'll
kill
say-
somebody.
I can't.
But-
Hold
but
on.
they
I
all
want to
say-
hear what Pangburn says. He's mock.
Pause for a
I think
second.
he's getting
I
on
was
somebody.
just cackling into the mic. Captain Jack. Captain Jack.
What am I doing? Yeah.
You're leading
Wait,
the
Pangburn,
charge.
I got a question for you. Why in every one of these debates or whatever, talk shows or whatever with these with celebrities, intellectual, why do you announce them like a wrestling match?
What?
Why do you
not?
do
Oh, sorry.
In
I know,
this corner,
I know what you're asking. I know what you're asking. Because you're talking about it right now.
Weighing in at IQ 120.
But how
I'm
amazing
being
would it be if you
dominated
took
right
if you
now.
took that to the extreme though, and it was like a debate between Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris, and
Well-
you got an announcer and Sam comes in with an elbow from the sky, after he makes a point.
So
Just a
Sam,
hype man on a debate stage.
So-
Oh,
I actually have
So-
one thing I want to address to Travis. I thought it was interesting. I saw a clip on YouTube and stuff like that. Was it I saw that Michikaku didn't actually kind of answer the reason why they call it the god
Yeah, he
Question.
he tripped up a bit because I put it in a way. I think I stunned him a bit when I said I was an atheist.
Right.
And I think he has an idea of what atheists tend to be like. And when I started in on God, and then so it was a bit of one of his canned responses with a little bit of nuance, wanting to get off the topic mixed in there. I think.
I saw it. I was like, it could have been
canned responses.
Well, it was to me. It's a lot simpler question than the way he let it on, and I understand that he likes to do long form explanations, which makes sense in the profession that he does because he needs to most of the time.
But Aristotle, I think it's good to have fun with these live discussions. I like to make them appealing and interesting and exciting for people who may not initially be that way. And I think adding some fun theatrics, not on the side of the conversation, but on the side of the entire experience for everyone, including being able to joke about the dork who was going, Sam Harris! Like,
exactly.
The thing is though, like when I listen to the audience, man, like it sends cringe shivers down my spine because when it like clap when somebody makes like a very like simple point.
Yeah,
right?
but
like,
look,
why do they do that?
I'll tell you, there were some people who would only clap for one person, and the other person clapped for the other. But there were people who were acknowledging with their laughter, their clapping, their hear, their support. They're engaged in the conversation and showing their enjoyment with what is occurring. And sometimes it will have to do with their favorite guy making a good point, but sometimes when people are so engaged they can't help but react and emote, and that's the difference between going out and
I think
seeing
that's
something
anti-rationality
live.
though, honestly, because like I think the intuition and emotions takes over, and like no rational discussion can really be taken serious. Like we had to bracket out. Like I'm gonna go phenomenologically by this. I'm gonna use our sort method. Like we have to bracket out the emotions, but that's just my opinion.
Aristotle.
I was talking about that earlier.
Someone
Actually,
can be emoting while they're deeply connected with the information that's being exchanged, and with extreme passion let out a cry of joy when something connects. It's you're not understanding that.
Just look at NASA. Just look at NASA when that helicopter took off. Like all these people are invested in this scientific thing that is.
Yeah, but the thing is though, like when they're like actually making the models and so on for like getting the helicopter up and so on, like I highly doubt they're all like sitting, shaking with emotions. Like they were focused, they were being rational, clear-headed,
Yeah, but once it landed and took off, once it took off and landed, they all lost their shit. They were popping corks and fucking like.
Yeah, like I know that, but if we have X and Y person having like, let's say, quote unquote, like a rational intellectual discussion, right? I think the clappings and so on could be done after they're done speaking.
Most of the time that is the case, because people ultimately don't. There is also that aspect of not wanting to interrupt the great interlocuting that people are there to see. Like they want people to shut the fuck up so that they can. Like even when we went for a lot of the high profile events, we decided to ask the audience whether we should go to the Q&A session or to just allow the conversation to continue for the remainder of the time. So that's just another way audience, applause and voting and things like that comes into it. But it's not all about just planning that and trying to enforce exclusive hard-edged rules on the crowd. They're there to see the art of conversation play out and tangle, and the art of morality play out, tangle with the is.
Okay, I have to object. Sorry. Like, what do you mean by like the art of conversation? Because like I mean, we really had to discuss like what art is in the first place. Like, this is a very like debated philosophical term, like what art is, right?
Dude,
so when
you're gonna.
what art is?
So Aristotle, you need to go and read the fundamental understanding of words and colloquialisms and how people talk about certain things, because you just if you didn't get the tone in which I just said that last thing in, you're gonna have a really hard time having a conversation here.
No, I know, but like it's just
do have to-
I'm like Socrates is a.
Are you
huge
actually
inspiration
asking
for
about
me.
what like art,
I
what the
know-
meaning of art is?
I mean, you
Well, it's
named
like
yourself.
epistemology of art, right? So like when somebody makes the statement like the art of conversation, right? Like,
Yeah,
like
it's-
what does that even mean? Like
the art of conversation.
I mean, you mean like satisfying
It's-
like
it's
discourse
not a
going back and
science.
forth in the movement
You-
of time? Like I mean,
Do you not? This is
Oh,
why
good,
I'm saying you have a
good,
fundamental
good.
misunderstanding of how language is used, like common usage. If you don't understand that statement,
It's not.
what I mean,
don't
I
think
know,
it's-
like I know, like the common
it-
language thing, right? But like this is
no,
the
you
thing
don't,
with art,
because
right?
you
No,
were
no,
like,
no,
I
no, no,
must
it's
object,
it's
because you
nitpicky.
wanted to flex, because you
In
wanted to
this- in
flex
this
something,
it was-
dude. That's exactly what happened.
It's
Yeah,
just
let
it's
you
it's
guys
a
let
nitpicky
Travis
version of
finish.
stuff. That's it.
You guys
Okay,
let
okay,
Travis
okay,
finish.
okay.
Everybody's talking over each other right now.
Yeah, okay, guys, please. Me and Pangburn are speaking. Okay, fine. Okay, let's just forget about the art thing, right? So what were we saying, anyways?
I don't know. What was I saying?
I don't know. What were
Something
you saying?
about
It was about the
Talk about
Q and
art of-
the Q&A, right?
The art of conversation. Your Aristotle was talking about how he saw people reacting emotionally to something that should have been an intellectual conversation.
Yeah.
he
Let's
felt
keep
that
it in
might have
this
been-
trajectory. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing about this, Aristotle. So imagine somebody goes to one of these conversations, and this is the kind of stuff that they watch on YouTube all the time. This is the kind of stuff that they really get into. But this night they're going to a conversation. So what they're going to do, they're going to go have dinner. They're going to have drinks beforehand. They're going to be coming to the show feeling good, And so taking that in mind, there's going to be a certain amount of emotionality there. Now, here's the biggest differentiation for me. What do I think is best for society? Do I think people should be going to football games, getting as into it as they do, or should they go to discussions and get into it the same way? See, and you can say, oh, they're being emotional at the time, but I think overall, for the general arc of society, that's probably a better way to go than people getting that excited over sports ball.
Okay, so I think this is like a very subjective point, right? First of all, right? But let's just say, even though let's say they go to these, let's say in this case, we're just going to use Pangburn events, right? Like, if we have like a crowd of, let's say, Matt Dillahunty supporters and a crowd of what is his name, Jordan Peterson supporters, right? Like, I mean, this just becomes some kind of like bread and circus competition where like people are just like having these emotional reactions to what their favorite person is saying, rather like the point being.
No.
I think you have a myth. You believe in that myth, but that's not how it is in reality. You're not there to see all the conversations between everyone that are going on. It's not one side versus the other, like this strange political game of sides. You don't have a clue what you're talking about. You should ask more questions, Aristotle, instead of coming in a room like this and just spouting this stuff like it's knowledge when you don't have a fucking clue, dude.
Okay, so explain then. Instead
I just
mad,
did, if you were listening, or do you need me to say it again? Like, you didn't even listen to my last answer. You're not even listening. You're not Aristotle.
Wait, what?
No, fuck. Like, Aristotle would at least Aristotle would at least listen and seek to ask a few fucking questions and to hear.
Is that the only point? Like, you are not Aristotle. I mean, okay. Wow.
Wah, wah.
You are not Aristotle. All right. I know, man. I know.
No, I'm making a joke about your name because you come in this philosophical conversation as Aristotle. I'm not trying to put you down. I'm just saying that Aristotle would be asking a couple good, like a few clarifying questions, not just not listening and then saying.
Like, you do understand, I did not make like an absolute. I just literally said like from like me watching the videos. This is the impression I get.
Yeah. So
I mean, say, if you generally think like I'm coming here saying like this is equally, so like A is bigger than B is bigger than C, therefore A is bigger than C. Like, I mean, you can make that distinction, right? I think in this case, it's you not understanding common language.
So I would say, Aristotle, when you watch those videos, and you see that and you have that reaction, what would be the question that you'd want to ask those people involved? I mean, because I could think of something along the lines of like asking Jordan Peterson and Matt Dillahunty,
Like
do you
just
think
general
the
epistemological questions.
hold on, just let me finish. Do you know if you could ask Jordan Peterson, Matt Dillahunty, if the crowd reaction changed the conversation that they're going to have? I don't necessarily agree that's the case. I think those guys were focusing on the conversation that they're happening, regardless of the crowd reaction. You know, I mean, the crowd reaction, I see that as a separate thing as opposed to what's actually going on. The same way that any team sport, like what's actually going on in the field, is different from the crowd reaction.
Okay, sure. So to this, I would answer that. I mean, sure. So we could even say like the discussion between Matt Dillahunty and Jordan Peterson would be, let's say, a quote unquote rational discussion, right? But I'm thinking like when we bring this into like a societal thing, as you said, like if we juxtapose this to like going to a football game, I think it becomes problematic with like this I guess hyper emotional responses by the crowd.
Yeah, your opinion is that the emotional responses are watering down the intellectual conversation that's taking place. See,
Yeah,
I disagree with that, and I would say, you know, I
It's
mean,
probably
I
a
think you would have-
balance. It's probably a
Yeah.
balance between how civilized the audience is and how much they respond to what is being said on the stage. Because I feel like one question is how much of what they're saying actually, like how much the audience actually how much they understand, how much they take away from this discussion, and one part is what they actually end up saying on the stage. What can they come up with themselves? So it's the audience reaction is a testament to how much they understand, how much the audience understands of what they're saying.
Yeah, it really gives like good clues of like how much they understand, but like I highly doubt. Obviously, this is just a hypothesis, right? But like I highly doubt like much of the like audience understands what these people are saying, right? Because many of it actually requires like going for like a philosophy curriculum at least, right? At least this is my opinion on it.
But do you think people listening to that they might go into it? And I'll agree with you. There are people who are going that who don't truly understand.
Yeah, who don't truly understand.
But do you think them taking part in those events might lead them to go down the line of like trying to learn more and understand things better? Because I think it does.
You can't let that
could.
Aristotle. Do you think Aristotle himself had a degree in philosophy?
No. But what I'm saying, like, if you really want to do like a satisfying epistemological analysis of what these people are saying, right? I would be saying you need at least some philosophical baggage, at least. Now, maybe I overstated the philosophical curriculum, but you get my point. Instead of, let's say, like not like engaging in any intellectual work at all, for example, right?
By the way, Aristotle, I just want to say I'm glad you're here. You're really interesting, and I enjoy your discourse. I just wanted to say.
Well, I do want to say, Aristotle, that that discourse that's taking place, that's on that higher level, that's dependent on the participants and not dependent on the audience. You know, I mean, that's...
Well, I mean, sure, right? But then the audience shouldn't be clapping at things they don't understand then, right? Like...
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. What does that matter? I mean,
you don't know what they do or don't understand.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, that's true. Like, how do I know anything, right? Like, how do I know, like you don't understand anything of what I'm saying? Like, I mean, this is the thing of language and the philosophy of language, right?
Said completely.
No, well, not even language, just like an actual understanding. Like, you could never like understand.
I think I understand.
Well, I mean, Wittgenstein was into a lot of this, right? With like the nihilism of language, right?
Yeah,
but that's a difference.
I understand
I kind of instinctively agree with Aristotle's like his point about the audience participating in the discussion by clapping and disturbing what's going on stage. But I can like rationalize it as a way that the audience shows that they understand something. Like it's not. I also have the problem of disturbing the conversation. It doesn't belong there. in one sense, but in one sense, it's what sort of shows that it's.
So,
it's
Oh,
the,
guys,
man,
just
see,
a-
that's
just
that's a really weird
Go ahead,
place
Scott.
to go, because if you just look back at the origin of like debate and stuff, going back to Britain. I mean, when look at Congress in Britain right now, when they have debates, everybody's throwing in their thing. And that's yeah. I mean, that's not a normal. It's pretty established human behavior over a
Yeah,
long
Of course
period
it
of
is.
time.
but if
It's a lot of pipping.
is it
It's a lot of
is
pip,
it
pip, pip, pip
effective
this and
to
pip,
reach
pip, pip, pip that.
episteme though? Pardon me.
What does pip pip mean?
It's a lot of pipping, though.
Yeah.
Pip,
What's
pip,
it?
pip, 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 pip.
That's a Monty Python reference. Pip pip hill.
It's in like hip hip hooray.
Hooray.
Did Mace just make a joke, by the way? It's a fucking miracle.
Somebody drop some balloons.
Praise the Lord.
It's a non-beta.
He ain't beta. He is mama's son.
He ain't beta.
Is
I
he
was gonna
black?
wipe my ass.
He
But that's a
black?
beta move.
He black?
Dude, Jesse Lee is just so rough sometimes, man.
Can you imagine if
Jesse
Jesse?
Lee Peterson.
Yeah, we just had him recently in the Q&A in this Discord. It was so much fun.
Wow.
If he Travis, if he comes out of the book called The Beta Male, will you read it?
I will be the first in line to read that. Oh my God, this book spoke so deeply to me.
You know who it's gonna be narrated by? Like the vocal,
Morgan
like
Freeman?
the ebook is gonna be by Ben Shapiro. Now right here, this is a classic beta male. He's obviously letting a man, a bigger,
You're talking
stronger
way
man,
too
take
fast.
over and take over his body, take his wife and put her over and put her in doggy style position. And he's pounding her right there, and you can see she's getting really wet, and that makes this guy over here extremely jealous.
And by the
Sorry.
way,
The book will take
just
8
don't tell
hours.
me
to
Guys,
read,
I
but
need
the
an honest
ebook-
answer.
The ebook will take 30 minutes.
What was
Guys.
that, Aristotle? What was
Guys, I need an
Aristotle?
honest answer. What is Ben Shapiro's height? Like honestly,
height
is it 5'9"?
5'4",
4'1".
It's 4'1".
Why do you know this?
5'4".
4
Is he?
Ben
Wait,
Shapiro's
I gotta look at
height?
it.
4'7".
Because he said he's like 5'9", but I'm a little bit skeptical of
He
that.
can't be more than
Yeah,
3
I mean,
feet.
I would say he's somewhere between like 5'7" and 5'9". That's about average male.
5'4".
How big?
And what is this in
How
real
big's his
measurements?
dick though?
Damn.
Ben Shapiro's
I'm
dick?
just being rude.
Like,
Steve
what the fuck,
Rubin.
man? Like we went from high
Jesus
IQ
Christ.
conversation to Ben Shapiro's cock. Like I mean, hey, let's,
Whoa! See, if you can't appreciate having spots of humor,
Dick has a yarmulke.
please, I haven't seen the light in 6 years. Put me back.
No, that's
thank you guys
Saul.
for the
That's Saul
discussion on it.
Rosenberg.
Mort Goldman. Oh, Mort
Anyway,
Goldman's
morality.
father seat. I'm Mort Goldman.
Thank you guys for the discussion.
guys,
I'm
is
gonna
it true
leave.
that Candace Owens?
you two, Steak,
Yeah,
man. Have a
thanks,
good night,
Steak.
dude.
Yeah.
Bye.
Later.
Yeah, bye.
The live debate just went to
Guys,
shit.
is it true that Candace Owens she like farted on live television?
No idea.
If
No,
they
no,
bottled
I think you're thinking of another girl.
if they bottled that fart, Aristotle, how much would you pay
What the
for it?
fuck?
A lot of money.
There you go.
Well, do you guys remember that girl who like graduated from college and went back like the very next day after she graduated with an AR-15? Because like in college, like the students were permitted from
Oh,
having
she
guns.
gets
so she went
bullied
back
so
the next
hard,
day.
dude, on Twitter about
Dude,
that.
but-
I actually I come
What's
to
her- what's her name?
There's a-
Something
there's
Bennett?
a video. Yeah, there's a
Caitlin.
video of her like shitting her pants like junior year or sophomore year
Oh,
of college.
that's Caitlin Bennett.
Yeah,
That's
she-
boo-
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know
Caitlin
what?
Bennett, yeah, dude,
I-
so bad.
She is an interesting
I stick up
right
for her
wing.
all the time on Twitter
talk.
That's
because
boo-boo. That's
people
boo-boo.
fucking pick on her. Like every single post has like 12,000 like
Her
shit
shit
your
her
pants.
pants. Yeah, exactly.
She literally can't make a move without somebody saying negative about her.
I think that's awful.
Let's
immoral.
be honest, guys.
I
We've
gotta
all
be
shit our
honest, though,
pants.
man,
We've
like-
all shit
Well,
our
I mean-
pants a couple times, right?
Yeah, but the thing is,
Well,
though, like,
I mean, think about it.
If you haven't
If
shit your pants, you have not experienced. You have not discovered the pleasure of farting.
oh boy.
like she could have like
I'm
look,
pretty
like,
sure I
like,
could
she
go
could have
most
like
of
she
my
could
life
have
without shitting my pants.
she could have saved a
I
child's
know. I was
life.
just about to say,
Fuck is
Scott,
your
speak
problem?
for yourself.
She could have saved a child's life from a burning building. You know what I mean? And that could have been what she was known for like years. But the second she shit her pants, it's like, no, she shit pants.
Yep.
That's how people
Diarrhea
remember it. It doesn't matter how much of a hero she was before. No, that one flaw, she shit her pants.
Well,
Shit
exactly.
pants.
Well, like imagine if you worked at a job and like you just killed it all the time, and one day you farted, but a little bit more came out, and everybody knew you shit your pants. You would be known at that office for the rest of your life that you worked.
Like,
there as
it's
the guy that
done.
shit his
Like,
Why
it's
are people-
literally
What are you
done.
talking about?
Why are
I made
people like
partner
that?
that way, sir.
Why are people like that? Fuck. I could never do something like if I knew something was making someone uncomfortable like in that way. It's one thing if like a dude got a bad haircut sometime and you were like you called him lightning bolt head for the rest of his life or something.
Yeah. Dude, what it reminds me of is like, do you remember Happy Gilmore when the kid pissed his pants? And he's like, I pissed my pants too.
Of course
Yeah.
I peed my pants. Peeing your pants is the coolest.
The teacher's like, oh, what the fuck?
Like one day, right? I'll piss my pants just for fun, just to see
Was
like
that
what will
Billy
happen. Like, I've
Madison
never done it.
or Big Daddy? Because that wasn't Happy Gilmore.
That's
Billy
that's
Madison.
Billy
Yeah,
Madison.
That's Billy
right,
Madison, yeah.
Yeah. I think
Sean
think-
Pan lotion is good for me.
Can you imagine shitting your pants at work, but then making partner, and you're like, "Damn, that guy, he's got balls,
Dude,
like Office
dude,
Space."
when I think
You don't get a.
Imagine
I've
shitting
had-
your
worry
pants
about
and getting a
anything.
raise at your job, dude.
As long as you've got scuba
I've
ski.
had nightmares
Yeah, go.
about accidentally shitting my pants at work. You know, like this. You know, like when you're a kid, you have a nightmare about like being in school in your underwear. Like I've had nightmares of like being in work and I shit my pants, and I'm
I
like,
like
oh
what-
god damn it.
I like what Aristotle just said. Imagine shitting your pants and then getting a raise.
Like a literal
Maybe you
plot.
just need to throw off the causal chain of determination and just shit your pants and just see what happens. It's like what?
You've got, your
You
boss
just go to
looks
your
you dead
boss,
in
it's
the eye,
like,
he's
boss,
like,
man, I got news for you, and then just take the biggest shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, dude, hey,
He
you're gonna
just
get a raise
did
tomorrow.
what we all
That's
have
actually an
always
alpha.
wanted
That's
to
actually an
do.
alpha primate.
he's like, check us out, bro. This is what I think about your desk. What do you think about that? You
It's
know what?
literally
You
an
got my
alpha
job
primate
starting
move.
tomorrow. I demote myself.
That's a primate move, man. If you don't like me throwing my shit around, then
You know-
maybe I shouldn't be an ape.
Guys, this whole like
hold
a
on.
debate
Was it,
event about like shitting in our pants and get raised.
slight non sequitur.
Perfect.
Was it a why?
Welcome
Why
to
do apes
intellectual
bare their
discourse.
teeth to show submissiveness when it's like a sign of aggressiveness in all other animals?
You know,
It's, like,
apes
super-
smells each other's ass, right? It's like some sexual
That's-
thing.
Sure, that's fantastic. That's not the question I asked. Is it is it
I saw a monkey one time masturbate into his own hand and eat it at the zoo.
Wow, that's fantastic. So when I was talking about going into whether it's interesting that other animals go like grr and show their teeth to show that like I'm gonna fucking bite you, but primates are like, here's my teeth. Sorry. It's confusing.
Something to do with. I mean, something to do with their nature, but yeah, it's really interesting.
But like most ape, like not monkeys, but most apes like bite. Like they like grab things and bite shit like as attacks. So when they bare their teeth, wouldn't that be like? Is it like here's my weapon? Maybe like here, like I'm showing you my guns real quick, like and you know that they're there. Or
I think
like,
it's to end.
what the
Maybe it's
fuck?
to end your camouflage, or maybe it's just some social sign. I mean, we're starting to see it in dogs more often. Dogs are starting to pick it up, which is really interesting. So we're seeing
to bare their
dogs
teeth
smile.
like when they're scared.
No, when they meet you and they're happy, they'll actually smile. So it's like
Yeah,
people
yeah,
actually
I know.
have dogs that smile now.
Yeah,
So
but my
dogs
dog
pick
smiles
up
at me
on
all
it.
the time.
So it becomes a
'Cause he loves
it becomes a social thing, right? So that they're trying to say, "Hey, I'm friendly. Hey, look at me. Like I'm happy to approach."
Right. Interesting.
yeah,
but I
it
just
is-
want to
it
know
is
why
a-
it's an old thing in apes though, because like I don't know.
we don't
It's just
throw our
it's
shit
a
at
non
each other,
sequitur.
so
It's a non sequitur. It was just something that was on top of my mind real quick. Keep going.
It's the same way. Like
Guys,
I
Guys,
put my
what is
finger
the
in your
average
butthole and
like?
smell it to say hi.
Guys, what is the average penile length of a monkey?
They're
I'm
actually
sure that's
really
on the top
small.
of your knowledge list.
I
mean,
think they're
listen,
really.
dude,
They actually
okay,
have
many things
really
on my
small.
knowledge
Uh,
list.
Well, no, I'm sure that one's like
like
right there.
Most apes, so we came from the great apes, so we're not exactly like the chimpanzees and those things, but they have, if like more towards like the chimpanzees and the gorillas, they actually have larger testicles but smaller penises.
Wait, what?
At least in my case.
What about gorillas?
Gorillas, I think the same too. Yeah, they're just, I think, above average or less than average on the human scale, but they have larger testicles.
I wonder if it looks like a human cock.
I'm sure you can find. Yeah, this is why
so.
I said this is probably on the top of your knowledge basis.
I mean, there's many things on top of it. I mean,
I've thought about a lot of things in my life, but like the last thing, I've thought about a lot of things in my life, but the last thing that's ever been on my mind until right now, talking to you, was I wonder what the shape of a gorilla's cock is.
it's the thing. Like I stimulate.
It's not a. I'm just interested because it's never a path that my mind decided to go down. No, it's an interesting question. I'm sure lots of people are wanting to know.
Hopefully, right?
You go.
Who knows? Maybe we'll do.
You do you, buddy. Yeah, maybe. You better. How about you find that out? You go do some field testing. Hit me back in a couple months about your findings.
Don't Google search it. Field test that shit.
Yeah.
Just go up to a gorilla.
Again, right?
I really feel like.
Right?
No. See, there's no way. There's no way. Hold on a second. In that encounter, there's no way that anyone doesn't matter what human, is raping the gorilla.
That gorilla's
it's just
rip your fucking
there's no way. Like the gorilla could throw you with one arm and be like, "Oh shit, I was sneezing."
Like imagine getting. Like how do you think it would be to be raped by a gorilla though?
Rough?
Rough? That's the only word? Do you you need some more variety in your vocabulary when we
that's the first thing. That's the first thing that comes to that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
How about artistic?
It would be autistic.
I want you to be more dramatic about it. You're like, well, I find it mildly pleasing.
That's why. See, I'm wondering about him because he's like, can you please describe what you would do with gorilla sex?
Guys,
I'm like, come on now, man.
Guys, my neighbors think, like I'm speaking loud and it's like late where I am, and my neighbors probably think I'm psychotic or something. Like I'm talking about like being raped by a gorilla. What the fuck?
Yeah, I know. Why don't you rein it in?
Guys,
it's like a horse, like when you're on the trail. I get it. You're going quick, and you
don't worry about your
rein it in. Rein it.
So you have some social status to keep up with your neighbors, then you don't have to chime in.
I'm Aristotle. They should watch out. I have no idea what that was about. But...
I have no idea what it was either.
Either way.
Like guys, think about it. Yeah.
Where we just went to in that fucking topic.
The thing about it was we swung it around. I threw a non sequitur out there and tried to get it back on track, but the second I finished it, it just didn't get anywhere.
Did swing it around? That's what she said.
Yeah. If anybody wants me to swing it around, just ask.
I'm good.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So.
I don't know what we're talking about when it comes to morality and the apes and all that stuff.
Gorillas and
well, I mean, it depends. Like, so I don't know. Does anybody have a specific thing they think that their morality comes from?
From my parents, my worldview, from the way they grew me.
So subjective from how you were raised.
Yes, and then developed later through pragmatic purpose. So I can strip every one of my moral foundations if you give me a pragmatic, application that would be better to my well-being and the well-being of others if you put that in. And an example of that would be raping young children is better for the children and better for society. I would do it.
If someone could posit that to you.
Yeah, but yet
in a way that was satisfactory to your knowledge.
Opposite. Yeah, so would we call it rape at that point? I don't know, but the action would still be the same. So we could debate about semantics, but still at the same time, it'd be like, well, there's a way that I can do that.
Just watch out for the Super Adventure Club. That's a very deep South Park reference. Nobody.
I was going to say, is that the one with Chef?
Yeah,
and the
yeah, that's it. That's yeah.
and
No,
yeah.
Super Adventure Club, completely
the
different.
Nambla
They
knockoff,
believe
yeah.
that they believe banging children gives them immortality. That's a real thing. At
Oh,
least it
okay.
used to be. Anyways, continue.
It's like Mambla, right? Like there's
Yeah.
Mambla.
Yeah.
Right? So when there's Mambla, you're
Yeah.
like, well, who's getting hurt here? You know, maybe it's
What?
the kids. Cause it's like. It's like, well, if it's the kids, then like, and you're showing traumatic issues, like we would have to look at that, right? But if you looked at Mambla and you're like, well, look at Mambla, and then look at how healthy the kids turn out, and how healthy the pedophiles turn out.
If that was the case.
If that was the case, right? But
Okay,
instead
I'm
we're
just,
like,
I'm just
oh,
making.
okay.
I just all of those things. I just want to make sure there's a heavy preface before, and then we're good. Like,
let me preface this heavily. Having sex with kids underage is 99.9% of the time a bad outcome for both parties.
Can we throw another 0.9 in there? Can we throw another 9 in there just for?
Point 999999.
Okay, cool.
Except for the.
I'm good with that.
There's
there might have been one time where like somebody was like, "Have sex with this kid, or I'll kill a kingdom," and he's like, "Sorry, kid."
Oh, I mean, there's there's people out there who are like 19.
I mean, that's just a really advanced trolley problem.
17-year-old girlfriend, and then they get married for the rest of their life, and they live a happy life, right? Like that's a time where an adult had sex with an underage woman, or man, and then they live the rest of their
we're
life
looking at. Fine. Technically, I don't know. You can't look at historical context and apply the context of what we use today. It's just not. You can adapt it to that, but you can't really say that's what. Like Looney Tunes gives the best example. Well, Looney Tunes gives the best example of it, right? Like there's a whole set of terrible cartoons that came out, like, or not terrible, but quote unquote terrible cartoons that came out that people have really harsh opinions on. And before you watch it, it lets you know in the beginning of the film that these cartoons are a product of their time and they haven't been altered so that you can understand what history was and what it was like at the time. And that's an important fucking thing to me when it comes to those specific kinds of things. You shouldn't alter any of that kind of crap. Just let people know what it was like before.
And I guess so. But I mean, that's kind of what I'm talking about when it comes to like an example of like, imagine two kids who are kind of like high school sweethearts, you know, or maybe even not, but one kid turns 18, right? So now he's legally an adult, or maybe he turns, 19, and yet his girlfriend or his boyfriend is still 17.
There's usually there's a Romeo and Juliet clause within a certain amount of years, depending on if the people went to high school. So
so Romeo and Juliet clause, or consent by the parents, or maybe it's just hidden, right? Maybe it's just hidden, and then these people go on and they actually have a really good life. Or maybe a 20-year-old hooks up with a 16-year-old, and even though that's not right, they keep it amongst themselves, right? And they keep it amongst themselves, and then they go off to have a beautiful life. And there's no problems there, right? Like the outcome was great. Like I'm not saying that's going to happen and that's okay because a 20-year-old does it with a 16-year-old. I'm not saying that that's like supposed to happen or that's going to be healthy for everybody. But I'm just saying that's that 0.001% that's like, yes, there's that possibility. But it takes so much more things behind it. Go ahead.
If somebody steals from somebody, but they stole from somebody they don't know and that doesn't know them, and they get a bunch of riches, is that person like?
Well, I mean, I feel like you're asking me, is it okay to lie to somebody? And then I go, well, no. And you're like, okay, but what about like a surprise birthday party?
I mean, you're not. Well, I mean, I wasn't gonna say that, but yeah, you're not entirely wrong.
It is that time of the day. We're going to switch over to Trav's tab. We're going to take things offline. Thanks to
I was trying to be nice because it was live.
It was
awesome. Ended on morality. We went through weird monkey sex.
This was an awesome show.
Monkey shit.
Loved it. I'll meet you guys.
I appreciate the love.
I'll meet you guys in the tavern.